Well, good morning, lovelies. It's so nice to get to talk to you. Today, we are going to be starting something new, which I'm super excited about, and that is Writer Wednesdays. So I have different questions that come up quite a bit in my conversations with my one-on-one coaching clients. And so I just wanted to be able to share a little bit of that goodness with you. So today we are going to be talking about premise, and premise is one of those things that I found really confusing when I first started writing and crafting fiction stories. And it's one of those things that seems obvious, and most people think they know what premise is. But actually, when you start digging and you start asking questions, you realize pretty quickly that there is some clarity that needs to happen there. One of the ways this usually manifests is when my client comes to me and says, I'm feeling stuck in my story, or I'm not sure where to go next, and this element doesn't seem to be working, or this character doesn't seem to be working. Most problems, when it comes to hitting a wall in your writing, or when you're feeling like you're hitting writer's block, a lot of those actually come back to your premise, and either because your premise isn't well enough defined, or because you've strayed away from the original premise of your story, and so you have competing storylines. One of the ways to think about premise is to think about it in terms of forgive me for breaking the sentence, your premise is composed of your character and their goal. So it starts with character, the conflict or obstacle that they're dealing with, and that can be both external and internal. Really, usually a combination of both is best because it adds some depth to your story. And then when the way that those come together and interact is called your premise. So the way that this kind of works, I'm going to give you an example. So say that you have a character who's a high school student, right? And one of their goals, they're really, really passionate about, and this is important, that they have to really care about this. Their main goal is that they want to win state and track, for example. Okay, so that's their goal. But then, that's important, but then you introduce your obstacle or your conflict. So they're coming home one night from a ball game or a track meet or whatever, and they're in a car accident, and they're badly injured, and they actually lose one of their legs. Okay, that's a pretty massive conflict that directly interferes with them accomplishing their goal of winning state and track. Okay, so maybe then your story is about a high school student who wants more than anything to win state track and get a scholarship for college, but they are injured in this accident, and they have to learn how to go through all this physical therapy and to learn how to maybe run on a prosthetic leg. Maybe they're dealing with the self-pity or people around them saying, this is an impossible dream, you shouldn't even try. All of these are elements that can create subplots. Maybe they have a romantic interest who is struggling with their injury. And those are the things that make the middle kind of messy and escalate your conflict throughout the story. So as they face each element or an increasingly difficult obstacles and overcome them on the way to achieving their goal, or not achieving their goal in the case of some stories, but they learned something else kind of along the way. Maybe learned that what they thought they wanted wasn't actually what they wanted, but that's a talk for another day. And so those are that's kind of an example of how those elements of premise come together. So you have your character, you have their goal, you have the obstacle, okay? So those elements should be present in your premise. And that also means that it needs to be extremely clear and well defined, okay? A lot of times I'll ask people for their premise. That's a standard part of my manuscript consults, and when I'm doing that initial conversation with authors and kind of getting a big picture, taking a big picture look at their story, and I get something back that's usually a paragraph or two. If it takes that long to identify and to communicate your premise, you need to go back and clarify your premise and make sure that you really have identified those major elements, because your premise is what's going to drive the rest of your story, okay? So if you're not super, super duper clear on that, then you're just going to really struggle, and your story is going to struggle as a result of that. So that's a little bit today on how to identify your premise. Next week, we'll be talking a little bit more about premise as well, because it's super duper important, and having clarity in your writing is what really gives you momentum and gives you the point to come back to when you are feeling stuck or when you hit writer's block, so you know how you can achieve breakthrough in your writing craft and ultimately in your writing career and business. So keep an eye out for that. Next week we'll be looking at premise, and then we'll also use that to delve into your elevator pitch, how to craft a great elevator pitch. It's really going to catch the attention of agents and editors, and that all comes out of premise. So thank you so much for stopping in. I'm going to just take a couple opportunities to answer any questions. If you have any questions as well, feel free to pop on. I know when I was first really started, I was so confused by premise. I struggled so much to try and figure out, what does this look like, and how does this really work? I just felt really confused by it, and it's taken me a while to come to the point where I can identify that with clarity. So if you have questions, or if you want to talk to me more about what a manuscript consult looks like, feel free to comment or send me a message, and I would love to talk to you. So have a fabulous day. As you can see behind me, we are already getting in the Christmas spirit. So enjoy this holiday season, and I'll check back with you next Wednesday. Bye.